I'm here to talk to you about finding your authentic author voice. Why do I want to talk about this? Well, I'm an author. I recently completed my 40th book. Thank you. Primarily, I write murder mysteries, but I've written a few romantic comedies as well. Killing people just seems to come more naturally to me than making them fall in love. As you can imagine, my husband sleeps very well at night. Why did I want to become an author? Well, when I was young, books were my everything. Saturday mornings were spent going to the library to check out a stack of books that would then get me through my week. My childhood is best described as crazy train breaking down in Dysfunction Junction. Books became my homeboys, my squad, my peeps. They were my escape from a childhood that also had many lovely memories, but also had a lot of sadness, confusion, and a little bit of terror. When I opened up the cover of a book and I dived in, I could be anyone. I could do anything. Books were a magical portal for me. And inside, I learned about acceptance and kindness. I learned about courage and how to be brave. They brought me out of the darkness and into the light. Now, you would think that at some point, it would occur to me that there was a person on the other side of this magical portal. It didn't. I think I thought books came fully formed. But when I was a teenager, I went to see the movie Romancing the Stone. How many of you have seen that movie? Good. It was the first time I had ever seen an author portrayed on the big screen. And I remember watching it and thinking, I want to do that. Well, it's Kathleen Turner. She lived in a sweet apartment in New York City, and she went on an epic adventure. Why wouldn't I want to do that? So the dream began. I did nothing with it for years, and then it occurred to me if I actually wanted to have that book with my name on the cover, I would actually have to, write. So I started writing, and I did everything wrong. Everything. I wrote and wrote and wrote. I tracked the market. I looked to see what was popular, what was trending, what was hot. If pirates were the thing, well, avast me hearties, I'd write you a pirate. If sparkly vampires were your jam, I could glitter bomb the heck out of a vampire for you. This is how you fail. And I failed, and failed, and failed, to the point where I'm pretty sure I have a PhD in failure, which makes me a doctor of failure and the only doctor in my family. So there's that. The only thing I was doing correctly at this point was writing. Because writing is a craft. Just like knitting or cooking or blogging, you're only going to get better if you actually do it. Every opportunity that came along for me to work on my craft, I took. So if I had to write a weekly report, my goal was to get into my boss's weekly report. If I had to write a Mother's Day card for my mom, my goal was to make her cry. Happy tears. But honestly, if you're trying to be a writer and you can't make your mama cry on Mother's Day, you are not working hard enough. So I had that going. I knew I needed to write. Okay, that's the very first part of finding your authentic voice. Do the work. As I was writing, I realized I needed to sharpen my voice. I wanted to write comedy. So I knew while I was writing that if I wasn't laughing while I was writing, it wasn't funny. So that was my style. Other authors write in rapid, monosyllabic, single-word bursts that sound like gunfire. That's their style. Other authors will use the entire thesaurus entry. See if you can guess what this is. Tall, leafy, green, woody, barky, deciduous, coniferous. To describe a tree. They're prosy, that's their style. Whatever your style is, you have to own it. You have to marry it, you have to make it yours. So that's kind of the second part. So you want to write, and then you want to sharpen. So the next part of finding my authentic voice was silence. By silence, I do not mean to stop talking, which I'm pretty sure my family would be thrilled if I would actually ever do. What I mean is you have to silence that internal critic, that voice that tells you you can't do your dream. My voice, my internal critic, is every person that I've met with no sense of humor. I call her Ruth, which is short for ruthless, because she is. If I think a line that I'm writing is hilarious, Ruth will pop up on my shoulder and whisper in my ear that it's not funny. My readers aren't going to get it. And what am I doing with my life anyway? Ruth is also the voice that tells me I can't have that second donut, that I'm too tall, too old, and not nearly as cute as I think I am. She's lovely. Here's the thing about Ruth. I know that Ruth is a manifestation of all my anxiety about making myself vulnerable by putting my work out there. Because when you find your authentic voice and you share it with the world, you have just opened the door to criticism, contempt, disdain, and in my case, 1-star reviews on Amazon that will cut you so deep you'll bleed out. And who wants that? Well, if you're going to be anything outside the box marked average, you do. So Ruth, you got to shut her up, shut her down, shut her out. And I have discovered that if Ruth is really yelling in my ear, it means I'm being very, very authentic. And I should go further and deeper. So listen to Ruth, and then do the opposite of what she tells you. The last part for me about finding my authentic voice was I had to learn how to share my work. When I started writing, I wrote in this self-imposed, Emily Dickinson-esque solitude, where not only did I not share my work, I didn't tell anyone that I wanted to be a writer. I didn't want anybody to laugh at me. I didn't want anybody to tell me I couldn't do it. I didn't want anyone to crush my dream. So I stayed quiet and I didn't share for years. Looking back, I think, oh my gosh, what a waste of time. If I had joined a writer's group, taken a class, shared something with a friend, my mom, anyone, I might have shaved years off of my writing journey. Side note, it took me like 7 years to get published, just so you know. When I realized, this was a big epiphany, that to actually get that book with my name on it, complete, I actually had to send it to publishers. I did it. I sent it out there. Did the rejections come in? Yeah, like a tsunami. It was very painful. Sometimes it was actually just a no thank you stamp right on my original work. Ouch. I have a file that's about 1 inch thick that's rejections. But in that file of no thank yous, there was just enough words of praise. There was just enough thoughtful critiques. There were just enough words of encouragement to keep me going. So I did. You have to share your work. Recently, I received a message from a woman who was spending the day at the children's hospital. Her son was undergoing some very scary tests. But she took the time to write to me to tell me that my book was the only thing that got her through the saddest, scariest, most confusing day of her life. So the thing to remember when you're looking for your authentic voice, whether it's writing words that capture people's imaginations, creating art that awes and inspires, making music that punches people in all the feels, or discovering new things in science and technology, whatever your jam is. When you put it out there for other people, you're becoming their compass point to help them navigate their lives. And just like those authors brought me as a child out of the darkness and into the light, you're going to be doing the same thing for those people who need you. Is it worth it? I think it is. Thank you.